Hey guys, I'm Bhagat Singh from Secure.com, and we're out here today. I wanted to come out a bit earlier, but I got caught up in some conversations, and then I realized that, well, now the weather is going to be pretty bad. Turns out it's not too bad. Not the best, but not too bad. So I want to turn this into a series. I'm thinking of a name for it. Maybe like Talk in a Park or something, like Park Talk, Walk Talk, or something like that. Walkie Talkie. Do you guys remember those? They might still have them around. So I wanted to talk about Sarbat Tapala and what that means when it comes to the things we eat. And you might think, well, what does that have to do with diet? Like, I've heard this sentiment from many Sikhs on the issue of meat eating and vegetarianism. They'll say the gurus weren't giving us like diet plans. You know, this is irrelevant to spirituality, to morality, and things like that. It's just diet. It's just food that you eat. Everyone should have the choice to eat whatever they want. Everyone should eat whatever they want to eat. This has nothing to do with spirituality, and this has nothing to do with morality. And their view is that all this discussion of vegetarianism and meat eating, all the arguments, that these are a fool's errand. This is meaningless. This is worthless arguments. There's no point of this. When your diet has nothing to do with spirituality and morality, and when Guru Granth Sahib is only concerned with spirituality and morality, what you eat has no bearing on how much of a Sikh or how good of a Sikh you are. So they believe that it's foolish to argue. It's foolish to argue about meat. So does our diet have anything to do with spirituality and morality or not? With this question, we are going at the very root of what spirituality is and what morality is. And it somewhat relates to the video that I made previously, I think my first video, where I spoke about meditation. And that when we meditate, we realize that we are the awareness that experiences everything that we experience. We are that awareness. We are that screen on which all the things in the world play out. We are that screen. And that capability that we have, that is known as the ability to have a subjective experience. We are capable of subjective experience. And in that video, I said that it is from this fact, this basic fact, that we are capable of experience, that we are aware. What did I say? I said in that video that what we experience might be false, But the fact that we are experiencing it is a fact, that we are experiencing it, even though it might be false, what we're experiencing. The world is ever-changing, but the fact that we are aware of an ever-changing world, that is a fact. So this is the most fundamental fact of our existence. And this is known as the truth. Because it is on this truth that all other truths are strung. That we are aware. Even though what we are aware of may be false, may be changing, the fact that we are aware is true. And in spirituality, this is what we're trying to understand viscerally. We're trying to feel it. Not in the sense of like feeling an emotion, but in the sense of realizing it, in the sense of recognizing it. Guru Granth Sahib starts with the word Sati. Sati, which means truth. Sasa tatenu sihari, Sati. The next word is Namu. Nanenu kanna, mamenu onkad. Namu. Sati Namu. This means the recognition of truth. Your ability to identify the truth. And the truth is that we are the awareness. So this is the foundation of spirituality. Morality is something that is related to this. Because the fact that we are capable of subjective experience means that we can experience things like pain. We can experience things like lack of freedom, feeling inhibited, feeling tied up. We can feel that. We experience that. And spirituality is a set of practices whereby we free ourselves from the things that bind us. Because we have a subjective experience and we are awareness, and our fundamental desire is that of freedom. We want to be free. We don't want to be anyone's slave. We don't want to subjugate ourselves to anyone else. So Guruji says, subjugate yourself to the truth so that you don't have to subjugate yourself to anyone else. Which means recognize the truth that you are awareness. Recognize that and stay with it. Rest into that perspective in which you are seeing yourself as not as a human, not as a body, not as a mind, but as simply the awareness of the world. And that can be tough, but that's the spiritual pursuit. And the moral pursuit, the morality issue, is related to this, where morality has to do with the subjective experiences of your own subjective experience, but also the subjective experience of others. Where spirituality has to do with your own subjective experience. Morality includes the subjective experience of other people. Not that morality exists outside of spirituality. It must exist within spirituality. It's a domain of spirituality. If your spirituality is disconnected from morality, then there is an issue. So in Sikhi, Seva and Simran walk hand in hand. Seva and Simran walk hand in hand. In Sikhi, spirituality and morality are connected. Naturally, if you see that you are awareness and that you want to be free, naturally you don't want to enslave any other being. Because you realize that that being is also awareness. You realize that that being is also experiencing the world the way you are, or similar to you, and they don't want to be enslaved either. They want to be free. So, spirituality and morality are connected, very connected. And we were talking about, is meat eating, is that somehow related to spirituality and morality? Because some people hold the view that Guru Granth Sahib does not advise on what food you should eat. Food has nothing to do with spirituality and morality. So these types of discussions are pointless. But this is not the case. So let's explore why. Spirituality, as we said, has to do with recognizing that you are awareness. And morality is a... Hold on. So spirituality is about recognizing that you are awareness. As you do that, you will also recognize that others are the same as you. That others also are awareness and are also experiencing the world through their own perspective. Morality has to do with setting them free. Spirituality is about setting yourself free, and morality is about setting others free, not binding them, not enslaving them. That's morality. So, if you realize that you're awareness, let me ask you as a question. If you realize that you're aware, that you are awareness, do you also see that animals are also awareness, that they are also capable of subjective experiences? We know that us and the animals came from the same source. That we are actually a species of animals, a species of mammal. Genetically, there's not much difference. It's very small differences that lead to the large differences that you see physically. But genetically, we're not that different. In terms of awareness, this you can simply observe. If you watch animals, if you observe animals, you will realize very quickly that this is a being that is experiencing the world and is, experiencing all kinds of emotions like joy, like pain, like excitement, like sadness. You can see that. If you've had a pet, if you've had a dog or a cat, or a bird or anything like that, you can see this. So these are beings that have a subjective experience. Is it okay to enslave them? Is it okay to bind them? Is it okay to use them? To say that Guru Granth Sahib, because it only talks about spirituality and morality, to say that it does not have anything to do with your diet, I think is false. Does Guru Granth Sahib prescribe a diet? No. Guru Granth Sahib does not prescribe a diet. It doesn't say you should eat the following 10 foods. 1 to 3 in the morning, 4 to 6 in the evening. It doesn't give you a diet plan. Does Guru Granth Sahib prescribe a diet? No. But does Guru Granth Sahib teach you how to eat? Absolutely. Absolutely. Does diet have to do something with spirituality and morality? Absolutely. Very much connected. Because the things that we eat come from, in many cases, beings that are capable of subjective experience. In order to eat them, we need to first enslave them. We need to see them as something that is useful rather than a being in her or himself. I was about to say itself, but I want to be careful here that these beings are not objects, because an object, like let's say a rock or a hammer, it's okay to view these things as something that you can use. It's okay to see a rock and want to throw it, let's say to skip it over some water. But when we're talking about a being with a subjective experience, is it okay to do that? Is it okay to see themselves as objects, as, let's say you don't view them as objects, but is it okay to see themselves as things that you can use, that you can derive use out of or profit out of? Is that okay? So in order to first consume a being capable of subjective experience, you first need to see it as something to use rather than a being. There's a difference. There's a difference there. Because when we're talking about usage, we are saying that this being is for us. Is for us to fulfill whatever desire we want. And this is very problematic. It might sound okay when I say, is it okay to see a being as something to use? You might think, well, that's okay. But think about what that entails. What does it entail? What does usage entail? What are we doing here? We're trying to fulfill a desire. So we're saying they are simply objects for us to fulfill our desire. That's what that entails. When we're talking about spirituality and recognizing that we are simply awareness and we are experiencing the world as awareness, and that other beings are also just that, awareness experiencing the world. When we're talking about spirituality, this is something that arises. This is something that is a consequence of a spiritual life, is that you start to see beings as beings rather than as things for you to use. And this is something that we can go into more depth, and if you want me to, you can leave me a comment if you want me to go more in depth with regards to how is it that spirituality leads us to see beings as just beings rather than as something to use. And I can go into more detail there. But let's carry on. So, in order to first consume a being capable of subjective experience, you need to first see it as something to use, something that is simply an object of your desire. Second, you need to enslave them. You need to restrict their freedom. You need to take away their freedom. And then from there, you might extract from them the things that they actually made for their own children. So, for example, milk or honey is actually the things that cows, buffaloes, and bees are making for their children. A cow or a buffalo or a goat or, whatever animal, a mother, her body only makes the milk after she becomes pregnant. So, we inject ourselves into that process and we say, no, actually, your baby is not going to get that. We're actually going to take that for ourselves. And what happens when the baby grows up? So there's a mechanism in the body that after a certain amount of time, the body stops producing the milk. The mother, her body naturally stops producing the milk. So what do? Well, one of the things we do is we inject hormones into her body to have it continue to produce the milk so that our profits don't go down. So that we can quench our desire. Anyway. So, hormones are given, and then that animal, that mother, is then artificially inseminated to make her pregnant again, so that she has another offspring and continues to produce milk. And each time her child is separated, because if the child drinks the milk, then, that's going to eat into profits. That's going to, it means less milk for those people who want to fulfill their desire for milk. So about 4 years later, after being impregnated each year, that mother, eventually, her body kind of slows down. It's spent, it's exhausted, and the milk production declines. So it doesn't make as much milk. So she's less profitable. At that point, if you are in India, if you're an Indian farmer, you're going to either release her onto the street, or you're going to sell her off to the butcher, or to people that are going to take her to the butcher. So she'll be killed. And if you're in the West, she's going straight to slaughter. And here we didn't mention that if her child, when she becomes pregnant, if her child is a male, then he's automatically sent to slaughter because he doesn't produce any milk. How can anyone say that spirituality and morality has nothing to do with your diet? How can anyone say that? This argument never stuck. Because when spirituality is about recognizing awareness in all beings, it's about recognizing the truth in all beings. And morality is about freeing them. It's about liberation. It's about liberating them. Then the very first act that you must do in order to have meat, eggs, milk, honey, and things like that on your plate, in your cups, in your cup of teas, is you need to enslave these beings. When Guru Granth Sahib teaches you to see awareness, to see the truth in all beings, to say that that has nothing to do with what I do to those beings, this is not a valid argument, to put it very politely. So, I think this is a discussion that's worth having. I don't think that this is foolish to talk about this or even argue about this. I think these discussions need to be had. These arguments need to be had. I think it is very much relevant to the teachings of Guru Granth Sahib. What we eat is very much relevant to spirituality and morality. So when I've been teaching on my social media pages about Seva and Simran, about responsible actions and meditation. And while I was teaching, I was also looking for ways where I could be more responsible. And this was one of the things that I realized that I wasn't doing. And I'm very grateful that I realized it at a relatively young age. because I don't want to be part of that whole system where we're enslaving beings capable of subjective experience and separating them from their children, taking away their freedom, and then eventually killing them. I realize I don't want to be part of that. This is not responsible at all. And when we're talking about Sarbat Tapala in Ardas every day, we pray for the well-being of everyone. I don't think that we can bring about Sarbat Tapala without stopping this. And I was asked about exploitation of workers and things like that. And I think those discussions are also worth having. How can we best reduce the exploitation of workers that occurs in our food systems? I want these videos to be an ongoing conversation. I want you guys, if there's anything on your mind, let me know. Leave it in the comments. And whether you agree or disagree, I would like to hear from you. Because if you agree, you should still comment, because that'll help this video reach more people. And if you disagree, I would like to know why you disagree. And if you have any other random questions, whatever it is, let me know. I will get to it at some point. I would like this to be an ongoing conversation. And if you guys have any names for this series, for this video series, like park talk or walk and talk or walkie talkie or whatever. If you have any other names, I'm open to suggestions. I would maybe we can put that in the title, that this is that type of episode. Anyway, guys, it's getting very dark, and I'm wearing sunglasses for no reason. I'm walking back and forth in the park. I look like a madman. I'm holding an umbrella, even though it's not raining, because I thought it was going to. So I'll see you guys later.